There is a quietness that isn't empty, but full, a silence that doesn't feel like absence, but presence. The soul that enters the fourth mansion begins to taste this. Up until now, prayer has been mostly the work of the soul, meditation, reflection, spiritual reading, discipline. But in the fourth mansion, something shifts. God begins to pray in the soul. This is the beginning of the supernatural life within. It's not dramatic, not emotional. It's subtle, still, and deep. Saint Teresa describes this as the beginning of infused prayer. It's when the soul can no longer advance by effort alone, because God starts drawing the soul into himself. Imagine a person standing beside a river, using a bucket to scoop up water. That was the earlier stages. But now, suddenly, they are immersed in the river, carried by the current, moved by grace. Prayer becomes less about saying things, and more about being with God. The soul begins to experience what Teresa calls the prayer of quiet. It's not ecstasy, it's not visions, it's stillness, a stillness that gently overcomes the noise of the world. At this stage, the soul is not doing something extraordinary. God is, and the soul simply consents. But this transition isn't always smooth, because now, the soul is caught between two worlds. It still operates in the natural realm, working, speaking, reasoning, but it has glimpsed the supernatural. And it begins to thirst. What once satisfied no longer does. What once made sense now feels shallow. The soul senses something greater, but can't fully name it. This can cause inner conflict. The soul might ask, why can't I pray like I used to? Why does God seem close, and yet I don't know what to do? The answer? Because God is drawing the soul deeper. He is awakening it to the mystery of union. But this awakening requires trust. In this mansion, Teresa warns that the soul must guard against pride and self-deception, because these new experiences in prayer can make one feel advanced. But in reality, the soul is not accomplishing more, it is receiving more. And the holier a person becomes, the more they realize they are nothing without God. The fourth mansion is also marked by an intense desire for purity of heart. The soul no longer wants to offend God, not out of fear of punishment, but out of love, out of sorrow for anything that might separate them from Him. The soul starts to be detached, not just from sin, but from self. It no longer says, "What do I want to do for God?" but "What does God want to do in me?" This is the beginning of true intimacy. God begins to speak in silence, not with words, but with presence, not with commands, but with love. The soul finds that just sitting with God, doing nothing, saying nothing, becomes enough, more than enough. It is peace without reason, joy without noise, stillness without emptiness. But this is only the beginning. Saint Teresa makes it clear there is much more ahead. This mansion is not the final destination. It's the doorway, the entry into the inner rooms of the castle, where God's love is no longer just felt, but encountered, known, lived. So how do we respond? First, with gratitude. To even enter this mansion is pure gift. It means God is actively working in your soul. Second, with humility, because it's not your effort that brought you here. It's your surrender, your yes. And third, with silence. Learn to rest in God. Not every prayer needs to be filled with words. Sometimes the holiest thing we can do is be still and let Him love us. In the fourth mansion, the soul discovers that prayer is not a task to be completed, it is a relationship to be received. It is the quiet place where God begins to whisper, "Come further. I have more to show you." And the only question left is, will we go?